welcome to another episode of Dawnversations. Today we have Amy Berger. Hi, Amy. Welcome to the show.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Okay, so we are going to talk about keto without the crazy. Amy is a certified nutrition specialist, and I think the biggest problem with keto is all of the crazy misinformation that's out there. I think that there are just all these experts and what works for them and their bodies, and it's not a one size fits all approach ever. So, can you clear up some of the myths that people have as far as I always knew it as like the Atkins diet, but that was from a long time ago. Um, and most people honestly seem like they cut carbs to lose weight. Like that's the only reason why they ever are carbs bad? Let's start there.
Well, what kind of carbs and for who? That's the real question. But no, I could not agree more about the confusion and my motto, Keto Without the Crazy, came because of how difficult it is for people to navigate this now compared to when I was new. And when I was new to this, Facebook did not exist. Twitter, Reddit, Instagram, YouTube, none of that even existed. It was so much simpler to follow a low-carb or ketogenic diet because there wasn't 72 different voices saying 72 different things.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right. A ketogenic diet is very similar, if not the same, as the Atkins induction diet, the very, very strict limitation on carbs.
Mhm.
So Dr. Atkins, unfortunately, got a very bad reputation over the years, even among the keto circles. And it's a real shame because he was actually a very, very brilliant clinician. And anyone having success, I think, with a lower carb or keto diet now really owes him a debt of gratitude. But where should I go? Do you want me to talk about the carbs? Are carbs bad? But you're so right about the confusion and overwhelm for
Yeah,
sure.
I guess what's most interesting to me is how much weight people do lose when they cut out carbs. So, can you explain why that is?
Yeah. Let me first preface this by saying though, you're right that most people think of keto as a weight loss diet, but it doesn't have to be. If you are already content with your weight, you can maintain weight. If you are underweight, you can gain healthy, needed body mass. So I like to think of keto as a weight normalizing diet, not necessarily a weight loss diet. Um, and there's so much research now about so many things that keto is good for. In fact, on my YouTube channel, I recently released a video about 31 things that keto is good for besides weight loss. That's a lot of stuff.
That
You
is a
know, I mean,
lot.
type
Like
2
what?
diabetes, PCOS, fatty liver, migraines, gout, cardiovascular disease. There's a ton of really fascinating research now coming out on keto for mental health, schizophrenia, bipolar, major depression. I mean, it's really astounding. But I mean, it is not wrong to think that most people start keto for weight loss because they do.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
but so I think the reason people drop so much weight, initially at least, is that um, what keto does is when you limit your carbohydrate intake very dramatically, your body sort of transitions over to being fueled mostly by carbs to being fueled mostly by fat, including your stored body fat. And by keeping your carb intake very low, your blood sugar stays at a nice low normal level, and your insulin stays at a nice low normal level. And when insulin levels fall like that, it has a very natural diuretic effect. So people lose several pounds of excess fluid and water weight in the first, few days or week or so. And then you kind of start tapping into the fat. But I just think maintaining a lower insulin level makes it much easier for your body to release stored fat because everybody thinks of insulin as a blood sugar hormone, like, oh, it just lowers your blood sugar. It does, but it also does so many other things, one of which is that it kind of inter interferes with or it inhibits fat burning. It inhibits the burning of fat from your food and
Okay.
your body. So
Well,
when insulin is lower, it's just easier to let go of the fat.
and that's such like a I don't wanna say buzzword, but, you know, like with Ozempic and Wegovy and all that stuff, like, now everybody's doing all these shots and everything to regulate their blood sugar, but you're saying you could do that with diet alone. You don't necessarily need a shot.
Yeah, you can absolutely do it with diet alone, but I am not opposed to these drugs because there are people who, despite their best efforts, can't stick to keto or, maybe there may be food addiction going on, binge eating going on. And those drugs, when used properly, when supervised and managed properly, which is a whole other thing,
Yeah.
when used appropriately, those drugs can be a godsend to give people that extra little leg up that makes it easier for them to stick to a lower carb or keto diet or any other plan they might be trying,
Yeah.
where they have tried and tried for years, maybe decades, to do it on their own, and they just can't. Then those drugs can be really useful, but they are not like a magical fix without you changing something about what you've been doing.
Yeah, well, and that's it. That's I mean, to be honest, it's like people are losing the weight because they stop eating all the garbage. You know, it's like, okay, you can't not that bread is bad, but they put so much junk in our food now that there's so many additives. You don't even know what's in the food that you're eating unless you're eating whole food. And I love Doritos. I do, but I know that they are terrible
Who
for
doesn't?
me.
I do too. Hello.
But, you know, like, if I ate Doritos every day and then went on some kind of a stricter way of eating that eliminated Doritos, I'm sure I would lose weight because
Right, 'cause
you're eliminating something that's not good for you.
yeah, and even the problem isn't Doritos. The problem is that none of us can have 5 Doritos and close the bag and go about our day. Like,
Yeah.
that is not the problem is that these foods are literally engineered to be addictive and to make us what they the was a different brand of snack that had that, slogan, "Bet you can't eat just one." Yeah, of
Right.
course I can't. You have an entire R&D department dedicated to making sure I can't just eat one.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah, that's
It's so
absolutely.
true. And to go completely off topic, like, do you do a lot of research or looking into how Europe and other countries ban so many of the things that we still have in our foods? Like, that to me is scary, mind-boggling. Like, do you research that at all?
I don't look specifically at it. I mean, I know of those issues, and I know, of people, even like bread is a good example, people who seem to have sensitivities or intolerances to gluten or to bread here go on vacation overseas and they eat bread with no problem. But I think that all of that could be playing a role, the additives, the dyes, the preservatives, whatever. But I think the larger problem is just the overall sugar content and our culture of sort of nonstop eating. In
Yeah,
other countries, they have like 3 meals, maybe a snack. They don't here in the US, you go to the shoe store and there's a candy aisle. There's candy at the checkout at Best Buy, for God's sake. Like, why are they selling candy at the electronics store and the shoe
right.
store? You can't go anywhere without it, and I think other cultures just don't have um, this society where they're surrounded by it, and then, we think it's a badge of honor that, "Oh, I'm working 10 hours a day, I never get up, I eat lunch at my desk, or I eat in the car." Other cultures value, like, "No, I'm gonna get up, I'm gonna go eat my lunch in peace, maybe with some friends, maybe not," but, like, they just have a very different food culture overall,
Yeah.
but I don't think we can dismiss the possibility that all those, questionable ingredients are playing some role. I don't think they're the biggest factor, but I wouldn't disregard them.
Yeah, so what got you down this road? What made you really a good proponent of keto?
I got it well, I got into it personally for weight loss, but over the years, it's it's become clear to me that losing weight is one of the least, impressive things that this can do for you. Like I said earlier, the mental health issues. Women have conceived children after being diagnosed with PCOS and after failing at previous fertility treatments. They just go on a low carb diet and they can conceive. So maybe not everybody, it's not like a
Right.
miracle cure, but my personal start in this was for weight loss because I was young enough that I didn't really have any health issues, but I have a family history of type 2 diabetes and stroke and cancer. So I'm pretty sure that if I hadn't found low carb when I did, I would have a lot of those issues now or be well on my way to having them.
So, did you lose a lot of weight and manage to keep it off by just staying keto? Have you been keto ever since?
No, I'm never gonna lie to anybody. I have been low carb, I would say, for the last, 20 odd years, maybe more. But do I have splurges? Oh, yeah, you bet I do. Now and then. They're just rare. And I've been at this long enough that for me personally, there's no risk anymore that I'm gonna have, one meal or one day that's, a real true indulgence. And that's gonna lead to like a 6-month bender.
Right.
I'm very good now about having the one meal and then going right back. So I've always been low carb all these years, not always ultra strict keto. And not everybody needs it, I don't have a condition for which I require that kind of, like, medically therapeutic diet. So some
Yeah.
people do, some don't.
Well, don't you think that that's kind of the best way to live anyway is 90% of the time you're eating really well, and then you allow for those occasional blips?
I do no, I absolutely agree with that, but you have to know yourself because there are some people, I think, who can't even have that wiggle room because that wiggle room is going to lead to, you know, a blowout.
Yeah, right. What do you think is a misconception? Like, what makes it crazy for people?
Probably the one of the biggest things I think is thinking that you have to track your food meticulously. You have to weigh and measure everything. You have to follow precise macros. Like if you don't have this percentage of protein and this percentage of fat, like that's not how it works. And I think that stops a lot of people because it's like, I just want to sit down and enjoy my food. I don't want to turn it into math homework. I don't want
Yeah.
to turn it into a calculus assignment. And you don't need to do that. Some people might need to do that for a very specific reason, but when you're just starting out, most people really don't need to do that. Like the
Yeah.
biggest, most important step to take first is to just avoid sugar and starch. And that alone will get a lot of people pretty far. They don't even have to do anything more than that. And then some people need to go a little further.
Yeah. I think it's interesting too when you start cutting out stuff and it's just no longer a part of your life or your lifestyle. It's just seems so crazy when you see all the options out there that they have for people can just be so toxic, so terrible, and it's just become the norm of, no, just you just have a big, huge glass of Mountain Dew, glass of sugar.
Yeah, it's just so normal in our society that people eat and drink that stuff, and they have no idea why they're so sick or why they're so tired all the time.
Yeah.
But you really can re reprogram your palate and reprogram your mind to some extent. Like I was born and raised in New York. I haven't had a bagel in probably 20 something years. You know, d
Oh,
I have bread every now and then, like, I'm always honest about that, but, like, I probably had a bagel the size of my head for breakfast every morning in high school. I don't know how I wasn't 400 pounds,
yeah,
and then I would wonder why I was ravenous 2 hours later, like, I just
yeah.
I just had a bagel, I had cereal, like, why am I so hungry? Well, now I know why.
Right, right. So giving up sugar and starch is a good place to start. Um, Groceries are expensive. Meat and vegetables are very expensive. I mean, everything is. I mean, really, it's everything is right now.
Yeah.
But what's in it? Is it? How do you make it affordable?
I think, this is such a no-brainer tip, but I'm gonna say it anyway. Shop the sales, shop the markdowns, look for the at my local grocery stores, there's a bright yellow sticker when something is marked down. You would be amazed at what you can get for a very reasonable price, and if you're gonna stick it in the freezer anyway, it
Well,
doesn't
that's
matter that
true.
it's kind of gonna go soon, you're gonna put it in the freezer, and so I think that's huge. And I also think if you look at the unit cost, so not like, oh, this box of cereal is $3 and this pound of meat is $8. Per pound, that cereal is probably 15 bucks a pound. Or, per quart, the drink is $12 a quart versus the, vegetables, the non-starchy vegetables that you can eat on a very low carb diet are still, I think, one of the cheapest things in the store. $1.99 for broccoli crowns, a pound, or like zucchini goes on sale sometimes 99 cents a pound, $1.49 a pound. I mean, that's dirt cheap.
Yeah.
And even the meat, again, per pound, 4.99 a pound, 6.99 a pound, it might sound like a lot, but compare that to the price of the stuff that people think nothing. Oh, this box of granola bars is 3.50. Yeah, but again, per pound, it's probably $27.
Yeah.
And when you change what you eat a little bit, think of all the stuff you're not buying anymore. You're not
That's
buying all that
true.
junk anymore, and you were already probably buying some of the proteins and vegetables in addition to all the starch and sugar. Now, you're still buying the protein and vegetables, but you're not buying the starch and sugar. So I'm not gonna make this all like, oh, everything's perfect and easy, but some people actually spend less money on food on
Yeah.
a low carb diet. But I would also say people are worth the extra expense. If anyone out there is listening, like, you're worth the extra couple of dollars to feed yourself well and buy food that supports your health rather than actually working against you.
Yeah, because prescriptions are expensive.
No, that's an excellent point. Like, I am not talking out of turn when you look at the research on keto, or what we call it. Those of us in the profession are starting to use the phrase therapeutic carbohydrate restriction, TCR, a little more because it removes all the baggage that keto, all that crazy keto diet, that wackadoodle thing where all you do is eat bacon. Like, it
Yeah.
is a legitimate nutritional metabolic therapy, this therapeutic carbohydrate restriction. When you start eating that way, people are able to completely stop, medications for type 2 diabetes, for hypertension, for heartburn, for migraines, for gout, for skin issues, for all these things. Maybe not everybody, but you can typically reduce or completely eliminate meds. So you're saving on meds, you're saving on a bajillion doctor's visits every month. You can't just look at the price of food. There's an overall thing. And what is the price of limited mobility? What is the
Yeah.
price of brain fog all day? What is the price of heartburn? What aren't you're worth that extra expense to not deal with all of those expense those
Yeah.
mental and emotional expenses, even if it's not monetary.
Yeah, I've been trying to get to the bottom of, constant headaches. They're not always the extreme of migraines, but I get constant headaches, and my doctor's working with me right now to try and starting with natural because I don't wanna have to, but I have my little stash of my migraine pills that I savor and hold for emergency situations, but my husband just told me the other day 6 pills, I'm not gonna say the brand, 6 pills, they dissolve under your tongue for a migraine, $1,000.
But, I bet you they're a fraction of that overseas. I bet you they're only that expensive here, but that's insane.
Isn't it? I have only taken, I think, 2, and I could tell you the days 'cause I savor it like it is magic. Because
Uh,
to me it is, and I don't wanna just take them. But I had no idea until he told me he saw the breakdown on our insurance, and I was like, "Thank God we have insurance that will pay it." $1,000? That's nuts. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it, but, I do try and eat healthy. I do have occasional things that probably trigger headaches, I don't know, but I did give up alcohol 2 years ago, and I thought that after doing that, I wouldn't wake up with a headache, but I still do.
Well,
So, you know.
there's someone very, very well known in my circles for migraine. I can, give you her information. I mean, I'm happy to say her name now. I don't know how you
Sure,
feel
yeah,
about that, but
yeah.
so her name is Angela Stanton, and if you
Okay.
can Google the Stanton migraine protocol, I mean, it is a very, very low carb, if not carnivore diet, so it's pretty extreme, but I mean, people are completely eliminating migraines, which is,
Wow.
people that were completely debilitated are migraine free or close to it.
That's
So
okay, so what is it? What is it that makes it trigger a headache? Do you know? Like,
So, I mean, this is not my area of expertise, but I think
yeah,
everyone has their individual triggers. I mean, I knew someone who like every time the barometric pressure dropped, she would, it could be the
that's
environment.
me,
For
yes.
some women, it could be like hormonal changes through the menstrual cycle. But a lot of people, it's unstable blood sugar and insulin. A lot of people, their sort of manifestation of hypoglycemia is a migraine. And so
Mm.
obviously a keto or carnivore diet really helps to even out that blood sugar. But if you ever talk to Angela Stanton or check her stuff out, a huge part of her protocol is salt. Salt loading. Apparently, a lot of people with migraine need like a truckload of salt because it's rapid electrolyte shifts in the brain. So it's
That's
really
so funny
it's a
because
huge part of her protocol is
I
sodium.
salt everything to excess on my own, like, I have always done that, my family has always joked, if I say something salty, then nobody wants it because they are, like, done.
Your body might be telling you something.
Wow, and my blood pressure's really low, like,
Yeah,
really
see?
low.
So you need more sodium then.
We might have just cured me, right?
And but if you're still getting migraines, you might actually need even more salt that you might think you're using a lot, but for a migraineur, you might need even more.
Gosh, the body is so intelligent. It never ceases to amaze me how the body knows what it needs.
Yeah.
We just have to
And
listen.
there's a lot of overlap actually molecularly between migraine and epilepsy. And the ketogenic diet was originally developed in the 1920s as a treatment for epilepsy before they had anticonvulsant drugs. And so to the extent that there's a lot of overlap in terms of like this is like an unscientific way to explain it, but the firing or misfiring of things in the brain, and a lot of it is just electrochemical instability and rapid shifts.
Mm,
And supposedly the salt and magnesium is a big part of it too, but the
yeah.
salt more so. Getting those right can really, really help. Or you might on a ketogenic diet and or carnivore with all the salt and magnesium, you might still get a migraine every now and then, but the threshold is much higher, meaning whatever your triggers are have to be a lot worse for them to give you a migraine versus when you're just
Okay.
eating and drinking whatever you want, it doesn't really take much to cause a problem.
Yeah, what you're saying is all completely adding up because we started with magnesium, which I was already taking, but I wasn't taking the right kind. I would needed to take the L-threonate so
Oh,
that it
yeah, uh-huh,
breaks the blood-brain barrier, gets in there
right.
easier. So I've been taking that at night, but she said, "You if it doesn't work, then we might have to go to a type of anti-seizure medication," which there you go. Wow, that just blew my mind. Huh. Yeah. Okay. So, what was I going to ask? It was something else. Oh, so does it help with cognition? Does it help with brain health being on a keto diet?
I would say yes. Certainly, a lot of people report the clearance of brain fog. They feel much sharper, and again, that could be because you are off the blood sugar roller coaster. You're like steady, and your brain has a nice supply of fuel. And I wrote a book actually about Alzheimer's disease, where they actually call Alzheimer's disease type 3 diabetes now because there is a big connection to insulin resistance and glucose in the brain. And when you're on a super, super low carb diet and you are generating ketones, ketones are, this is not my phrase, this is like in the literature, people have called them a super fuel for the brain. And
Mm,
so if your brain for some reason is not really processing glucose the way it should, which is that's the problem in Alzheimer's disease. The brain is not really taking up and using glucose, and so it's like starving, basically. It's in a fuel shortage. The brain will readily take up and use ketones. So I think, I do think it can be helpful for cognition.
Oh my gosh, that's fascinating.
I don't
I
wanna give you or, like, anyone else out there the impression that keto fixes everything or
Mhm.
that it's like this magical cure. I wish it was, but, or not everyone needs keto. Some people might get those brain benefits, not necessarily in Alzheimer's, but just everyday sort of brain fog. S you know, People might they could just cut back on sugar or cut out sugar, but still maybe eat a little bit of pasta, some potatoes, don't because we see this in weight loss too, like, usually in men more so than women, they can just stop drinking beer and lose 10 pounds. They change nothing else, right?
That's
So
true.
not everyone needs to go to the extreme. Some people do to really get that best benefit, but if somebody's like, "Oh, I can't do that," just start somewhere. Maybe you don't have to go that far.
Yeah. Well, how does alcohol come into play?
Well, you are talking to a wine lover. I live in, in the I live in Virginia, and Virginia, like, is a little known secret. There's a very nice wine growing region here in the Charlottesville area, and alcohol can fit into a keto diet. I'm not gonna lie, it's not a health food. I don't drink red wine for the resveratrol, like, that's not it's really not a health food. It's not, it is technically a toxin, but w we and I say we, like, the people that I work with, we do online courses about keto. We know that telling people no alcohol could be a deal breaker. They're like, "Well, then I'm
Right.
out. I'm not even gonna try this."
Yes.
So the way to fit it in is basically you're not gonna be having all the sugary cocktails and your cranberry juice and your sour mix and all this stuff. You can do dry wine, light beer, distilled spirits are 0 carb, like whiskey, gin, vodka, those are all 0. You just have to mix them with something that's 0 sugar, like these flavored seltzers or,
Mhm.
you know, whatever, like just a, rum and diet Coke kinda thing. You just have to keep the sugar out, and then I do have to say that a very, very low carb diet lowers your tolerance. So it's gonna alcohol will hit you much harder and faster on a very low carb diet, so you gotta know that if you are gonna drink. And of course, I mean, alcohol can interfere with fat loss for sure. If your main goal is losing weight, you can still drink, but you can't drink, like, 2 glasses of wine every night and think you're gonna lose weight, even on
Yeah.
a keto diet.
Yeah. Well, oh, am I wrong? That wasn't there, something out there that's you aren't supposed to work out super heavy when you're on super low carbs? Is that accurate or no?
You can, but there is an adjustment period. Like, when you're
Okay.
brand new to eating this way, your performance, athletic performance will decline usually, and then it will come back though, and often surpass where you were. But you do have to give your body time to adjust. Now, that doesn't mean you need to stop working out altogether, but I would not be trying to go for a PR or, like, crush it in the gym or do all this stuff. Take a rest, kinda dial back the intensity, and then as you get more used to it, you can keep going. There's a lot of professional athletes who eat this way now, but they really need to manage the sodium too. If you're working out a ton on an
Mhm.
ultra low carb diet, you need a lot more salt. And I think even if a very low carb diet helps support performance, those people do have more room for starch sort of strategically timed around their
Mhm.
workouts, to refuel or, like, to help recovery. You can have great performance on an ultra, ultra low carb diet, but I think, again, like, strategically punctuated carbohydrate can be helpful in those people.
Okay. Yeah, did you ever watch that Office episode where, they're gonna do a fun run or whatever, and Michael, like, eats all this Alfredo right before Alfredo pasta right before he goes for a run, and he's, like,
Well,
about ready to vomit?
before I found low carb, I, ran a marathon and I hate running.
Mm.
I just thought there's no way that I could train for a marathon and do all this running and not lose weight. Well, joke was on me because the pictures of me at the finish line, I'm quite chubby, and, I mean, I feel like I was healthy and I was fit, but I wasn't thin, and it's because I didn't know that mere mortals like me did not need to carb load for a little 5-mile training run. I didn't need to eat 2 bowls of pasta the night before. So, yeah, that's
Oh, that's funny. Well, tell people where they can find your YouTube channel, your book, all of it. Where can they find you?
Yeah, so my website is extremely out of date, unfortunately, but I will say, stallslayer.com. There's a work with me button, so I am available for consultations. But that is, yeah, stall slayer as in fat loss stall, like slay, break your stall. And adaptyourlifeacademy.com. That's a really long name, but that's where we do online courses all about keto and carnivore and protein. And we have a course on cancer and just all good stuff. So that's adaptyourlifeacademy.com. But yeah, I am on YouTube. Just look up Amy Berger, Keto Without the Crazy, and I will come up.
I love that. I love that. Well, I'll put all that in the show notes too so that people know how to find you. But thank you so much for your time. You really blew my mind at all the information that I got because that explains so much for what I've been dealing with.
I
It's
love the
crazy.
migraine thing. I hope that's helpful, and I hope it's helpful for somebody else out there.
Yeah, no kidding. All right. Well, thank you so much, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you. Take
All
care.
right. Bye bye.